was in London doing something, and he was listening to the radio live, and he heard John Peel say that he was hungry, just as an aside, while he was doing his show.
Mm.
So he turned up with a mushroom biryani for John Peel live on air. And he didn't know it from Adam. It was this, and on the condition that he would play his music. And John Peel said yes. Enjoyed the mushroom biryani. Played his record at the wrong speed. So it's he later then played it at the correct speed, and he did say once he'd heard it that he would have played it without the biryani anyway because he loved it.
It's showtime, folks.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Into the Music. I am Andy, and we all know John. He's our resident Englishman. John, now you got to live up to those expectations. You're carrying the mantle for a large percent of our audience.
It's pretty low if you've met any Englishmen. It's pretty low.
So let's cut to the chase. We all know why we're here, right? We're bouncing songs off each other, and it's your turn to give me one, sir. So what have you got?
So I have got a true Englishman. You've probably heard of this guy, Billy Bragg.
Definitely heard the name. Not familiar with his oeuvre.
Because I think the stuff he did with Wilco sort of hit over your side of things a lot. Yeah, fair enough. So this is his solo stuff, early solo stuff, and the song is called "A Lover Sings."
A Lover Sings? Okay. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go give it a listen, and I will come back, and we can chop it up.
You and I are victims of a love that lost a lot in the translation. When I think of all the time that I spent sitting on the end of your bed in anticipation of you giving in and us living in sin. A hot day, the smell of hairspray and the sound of a shower running softly. It's things like this that remind me how I felt the first time you came back for coffee. The way you took it amazed me. Walking in the park, kissing in the dark, and my head against your pillow. Late at night, a lover sings. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. I say Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. There is no real substitute for a ball struck squarely and firmly. And you're the kind of girl who wants to open up the bottle of pop too early in the journey. Our love went flat, just like that. It doesn't matter the colour of the car, but what goes on beneath the bonnet. Is there a flag that flies above your heart, and is my name written there upon it? Wedding cake and toothache equals love and pain.
This is an incredibly charming song. And I love I don't know, there's there's this quality to the sound where it doesn't feel like super structured or super produced. It's simple but very effective. Very effective. And I love how the instruments, when they move up, it's like foreshadowing for what the guy's vocals are about to do. It's really fun and playful, but it's also deep in lyric and in lyrics and in tone. So yeah, let's keep going. I really like this. I might take it back just a little bit.
Is there a flag that flies above your heart? Is my name written there upon it? Wedding cake and toothache equals love and pain. Walking in the park, kissing on the carpet, and your tights around your ankles. And late at night, a lover thinks of these things. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. I say Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. Adam and Eve are finding out all about. Adam and Eve are finding out all about. Teresa and Steve are finding out all about love.
Yeah, that was really great. That was really great. On to John to discuss. Oh, Billy Bragg. When you said a true Englishman, you were not lying, because the moment that guy started singing, boy, it sounded, I don't know, I hope this doesn't sound offensive, but it was the most British sounding, like you just hear it in the voice so much. Sometimes you hear artists from England and it's almost kind of hard to tell where they're from, or any other part of the UK. But man, he really owned his accent, which I think is cool. That's sort of what I found endearing about early Alex Turner stuff, is like you could hear every bit of like that Sheffield accent in him. So this was kind of neat to listen to and give it and just have that wash over my ears and have to digest it a bit. Great intro with the guitar and sort of the fiddling of the organ, which I thought was really, really cool. Another thing that about the guitar and the organ was that there were these points in the song where there would be like this flourish on either of the instruments, or either instrument would begin to ramp up, and it was almost like this early indicator or foreshadowing of what his voice was about to do. Like he ran with that theme of elevating and would do that with the vocals, and I thought that was really effective and cool. There was one thing that I thought was like a bit of lyrics. So the lyrics, again, like it took me a minute to kind of get through the whole accent barrier. But something I thought was interesting and kind of, I just loved the way it was worded was, you're the kind of girl who wants to open the bottle of pop too early in the journey. Our love went flat just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah, and that's
my
really
favorite
great
line as well.
That's a really great. Well, it's probably my favorite because it's definitely one of the ones that I heard. Because there's other ones that I may like better, but didn't make out. But that really resonated with me. It's a wonderful little like metaphor that he employs. I've often, when comparing similar stuff, compared it to chewing gum, where it's got this really great flavor in the beginning, but man, that shit wears off too fast. And this is sort of the same thing, right? You want a bubbly drink, and before you know it, it's just syrup water, and it's lost all of its effectiveness. So that really spoke to me. And then this other mechanism where it's less about the lyrics themselves and more just about how it's sweet that he used this or put this little twist on it. And it's at the end of the song where he's, I think for the second time in the song, brought up Adam and Eve. And he's saying, so I've written here, the repeated bit about Adam and Eve finding out about love. And he repeats that, and then ending with the final line of Teresa and Steve are finding out about love. Which I just thought was really charming. I mean, clearly it's Billy Bragg, but he puts this more human, mortal, here and now twist on the Adam and Eve thing line. And I just thought that was really sweet and clever. So all in all, this was a really good song, and I liked it a lot. And I would definitely be open to hearing more of Billy Bragg's stuff or any other project that he was part of, if this is kind of indicative of his songwriting and storytelling. So yeah, this gets an A for me for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I thought you would really enjoy the lyrics, if nothing else. I think musically, it's fairly simple. He has his own style, which I could imagine, and many people have told me it's grating, and I can understand that. I completely warm to it, but so going back to a bit about him, so he is had an interesting life, and he's a very interesting guy. I first discovered him when I was 13, 14. His first album came out, and I was around some friend's house, and they had one of, do you remember those old tape decks, which are kind of flat and oblong and had big buttons down one side, and you press the button and it flaps up in the middle, and you put the cassette in, and just has one crappy speaker. And we sat around listening to his first album, which is the very definition of lo-fi, the album. And on that, it sounded like it was underwater. And we just couldn't believe what we were hearing, because this was, you didn't get singers who sang in that accent for a start. You didn't get people talking about the real world and the minutiae and the mundaneness of real life. I mean, he has some fantastic lyrics. And of course, as soon as I say that, I can't think of a single one. But there are some, like in different songs, there's a great line in one where he says, how can you lie back and think of England when you don't even know who's in the team? That's just a great line. But yeah, I'll tell you a bit about him. I've been a big fan of him since I was like 13. So he was born in Barking in Essex. He is known as the Bard of Barking. That's one of his nicknames. So he started off. I'll try and streamline this. There's some really interesting stories though. But he started off in a punk band called Riff Raff. And bizarrely, they relocated to a village in Northamptonshire called Oundle. And the only reason I say that is because it's about 20 miles from where I live. And my best mate lives in Oundle. And it's a very sleepy, very small little town with a public school and not much else. And I just find it bizarre that Billy Bragg was there doing his punk stuff. Basically, they tried for a while. He got disillusioned, so he actually joined the British Army. He did 3 months of basic training, and then he bought himself out for 175 quid, which would have been a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
So he managed to get out, and he went back to music. So he then became a busker, but he became a busker par excellence. So he would, those one-man band sort of outfits where they have the bass drum on the back and all this stuff. He had it rigged up with a couple of amps running off some sort of massive car batteries. And he'll go around with an electric guitar with these amps like on a shoulder holster thing, play it. It was amazing. And that was his style. One story is for Charisma Records, he tricked his way into the A&R man's office by pretending to be a TV repairman. And once he got in there, he cornered him with his demo tapes. And the guy went to go ahead and sign him. They made the first album, Life's a Riot with Spy versus Spy, because he was performing on the streets as Spy versus Spy was his kind of name from the comic strip.
Sure.
So this is his first album. And it's a belter. But they're all really simple songs. It's just him and a guitar, nothing else. But some of the lyrical dexterity is just superb. And it's kind of almost old-fashioned rock and roll-y type sound rather than any punkishness to it. But it's a great album, very lo-fi, recommended for hardcore fans, I guess, not as an introduction. The record label kind of struggled and almost folded, and it got re-released under Go Discs. When it was re-released, he was in London doing something, and he was listening to the radio live, and he heard John Peel say that he was hungry, just as an aside, while he was doing his show. So he turned up with a mushroom biryani for John Peel, live on air. And he didn't know it from Adam. He was this, and on the condition that he would play his music. And John Peel said yes. Enjoyed the mushroom biryani, played his record at the wrong speed. So it's he later then played it at the correct speed, and he did say once he'd heard it that he would have played it without the biryani anyway because he loved it, Yeah. But there you go. So following year, which would have been 1983.
I love these guerrilla marketing tactics that he's employed.
Yeah. So 84, he brought out this Brewing Up with Billy Bragg, which I think is absolutely just a wonderful album. Sorry. He has this blend of social comment and also beginnings of political activism in there. There's a song called It Says Here, which is all about the sort of the press and how they focus on certain things. And he says, when you wake up to the fact that your paper is Tory, just remember there are two sides to every story. Things in there. There's some great stuff in there about his life in the army. There's a soldier's song in there as well. It's just a really interesting song. My favourite is probably Saturday Boy, which has again, it's just him and guitar, and then there's a trumpet solo in the middle of it. And it's all about this girl that he loves at school. I'll just try to, some of the lines are just absolute killer. I'm not going to go into it because I could be here forever. But anyway, he brought out that album. Then he brought out a third album in '86 called Talking with a Taxman About Poetry, which he started to slowly expand his sound. And so you have slightly more fuller sounds. And then further albums on, he did. There's a song there called Levi Stubbs' Tears, which is just hot.
What was the name of that album again? I'm sorry.
Talking with a Taxman About Poetry.
I love that. I love that whole line. I love the statement that it makes. It's like two people speaking different languages to one another almost, right? You've got this bean counter, number cruncher, money driven, and then an artistic mind and that dynamic. Yeah. That's so cool. Such a clever name.
I love for Billy Bragg to take the credit, but apparently it's a line from a Russian poet. But I can't remember who. But anyway, that's where that came from.
But again, the derivation, but
he had to know it. Yeah, it is. And he's gone on to do 12 solo albums. Those first three, I think, are his best, but that's just me. There's lots of people who love different parts of it, and he's done other projects as well, including the very successful Mermaid Avenue with Will Cohen and Natalie Merchant, that I think was up for a Grammy and all sorts of stuff. It did really well. So yeah, he's an interesting character. From the sort of early 80s onwards, he became a social commentator as well and a political activist, and he worked in various things. He set up things, he's not been shy of saying what he thinks and challenging things as well. He was asked to curate the left field stage at Glastonbury in 2010, and he's done that ever since as well. So he's highly regarded. One of the things he went into in the last 10 years, I'd say, is he's tried to explore English identity. He's been up against people like the sort of English Defence League and what was the National Front and all that sort of stuff. And he's trying to sort of hone in. And he's not just saying, I believe this, I believe that. He's actually been exploring stuff. And he's very outspoken about homophobia, racism, classism, all sorts of stuff. He's an intelligent guy. He's appeared on, there's a political program in our country called Question Time, where you have members of parliament and a few experts, and they're grilled by the audience every week. It used to be essential viewing. It's absolute shite now, but he's been, because he got taken over by a different production company who sort of ramped it up and put ringers in the audience and did all, it's awful. But he was on it previously as an expert, and he talked eloquently and knowledgeably about all areas of society. So he's a really clever, interesting guy.
Yeah, yeah, clearly. I mean, it's interesting to hear about all this sort of activist side to him, because this song doesn't really give you a glimpse of that. Maybe it gives you the glimpse of someone who is clever enough to have really interesting opinions on those kind of issues. But that's cool that there's this whole other side of him as an artist too that kind of touches on things outside of something as important and human as love, but also other things that are wildly important to being a human as well. So that's all the more reason to kind of want to hear more of his stuff. So I appreciate the song, and I appreciate the other information that only makes me want to kind of investigate his stuff more.
Oh, and he's a published author as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
Before we go, I'll just go into the lyrics of the song because I find them great.
Yeah, like I said, I was only able to catch like bits and bobbles from it. So what else?
Right.
What else is there?
Forgive my delivery. You and I are victims of a love that lost a lot in the translation. When I think of all the time I spent sitting on the edge of your bed in anticipation of you giving in and us living in sin. And then it's on to there. A hot day, the smell of hairspray, and the sound of a shower running softly. It's things like this that remind me how I felt the first time you came back for coffee. The way you took it amazed me. Walking in the park, kissing in the dark, and my head against your pillow. Late at night, a lover sings. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. I say Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. There is no real substitute for a ball struck squarely and firmly, and you're the kind of girl who wants to open up a bottle of pop too early in the journey. Our love went flat just like that. It doesn't matter the colour of the car, but what goes on beneath the bonnet. Is there a flag that flies above your heart, and is my name written there upon it? Wedding cake and toothache equals love and pain. Brilliant line. Walking in the park, kissing on the carpet, and your tights around your ankles. Late at night, a lover thinks of these things. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. I say Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. Adam and Eve are finding out all about love. Teresa and Steve are finding out all about love. Genius.
I got lost for a second, right? Because this allusion to the soda going flat. And then it goes back to being very romantic and lustful at points with the tights around the ankles and everything. What?
He does that a lot in songs as well. There's another song, is it St. Swithin's Day, where he goes, the Polaroids that keep us together will surely fade away, like the love that we have for each other on St. Swithin's Day. So he has that almost, that's a whimsical side to it, but he has that side to him sometimes where, you know, it's bittersweet.
Yeah, and it's only made more perplexing. Not if he had ended it that way with sort of this retrospective or like look at like what it was and what it could be or what it's become, but he does it in the middle of the song. So I was like, wait a minute, the relationship, is that indicative of the relationship fizzling out? But then he goes on to say, you know, the whole Adam and Eve and Teresa and Steve. It's just lovely lyricism, but that's the only bit where I'm like, well, wait a minute, are you guys together or not? Why make such a dire observation?
I think his mind is flitting all over the place.
Sure.
With memories, you don't necessarily get them in chronological order.
Yeah.
I just want to read to you, this is the lyrics from that song I mentioned earlier called The Saturday Boy. Sorry, I'm reading it now. This is so rude. I'm just reading it and laughing. It's talking about this girl who's in the class at school, and she became a magic mystery to him. And it says, we dreamed of her and compared our dreams, but that was all I ever tasted. Because she lied to me with her body, you see, and I lied to myself about the chances I wasted. You know, and it's just great sort of early adolescent.
Yeah.
Here we go. In the end, it took me a dictionary to find out the meaning of unrequited. While she was giving herself for free to a party to which I was never invited. I mean, it's just awesome. But anyway, there's lots of little gems from Billy Bragg of this sort of type, you know, and the music's slightly different. So I'll probably dig out another one for you because I think you'll really dig it.
Yeah, he seems like a bit of a hopeless poet, so I can.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Great. Do you want to take us out?
Oh, sure.
Or is it my turn? I can't remember.
No, leave it's me, right? Or no, I introduced us, so it would be yours. So go ahead, buddy.
Okay, well, thanks for listening to our very structured and coherent conversation.
As always, right?
Yeah, thanks so much for listening to this, Andy. I think hopefully there's some Billy Bragg fans out there. Please let us know what you think. If you liked it, tick the button. It's one of the short ways that we can see people enjoyed the content, and then we can force more down your throat. If you haven't subscribed, what are you thinking? Come on. But that being said, we shall see all of you next time on Into the Music.